Hello, my friends. I hope you and your family are doing well as we are shooting this video. It's a gorgeous Sunday, sunny afternoon outside, and I just got done running to Starbucks, getting a tea. I want to share some thoughts with you. And first of all, I want to thank you for joining me, taking time out of your schedule to be here together as we learn about leadership in crisis and leadership in general. If you're new to this series, this is the fourth in our series on crisis-wise leadership. The first one was crisis-wise leader understands context. The second one was a crisis-wise leader leads according to values rather than reaction and fear, but a set of core values that determines the way that we lead. And last week we talked about a crisis-wise leader communicates effectively. Well, today I want to talk to you about creativity. A crisis-wise leader thinks creatively. And I got to give a shout out and props to a bunch of my clients. I've watched them respond to this crisis. At first it hit us, and we're all dealing with uncertainty and fear and concern, and there's still some of that for sure. But I'm watching these leaders just create in new ways. Got leaders, part of our Leaders Edge group that are painting and just sprucing up their entire shop and outbuildings, preparing for when people come back. We're here, we're not going anywhere. We're here to serve our community. I've got clients that are taking this time to pull their staff together and rewrite their entire training manual. I've got clients that are using technology. They're buying cameras and video equipment and sound stuff to put together tours and virtual reality stuff. I have one client that is dabbling in animation, learning how to draw, using that for part of his marketing campaign. Got clients that are using videos for marketing and sales for the future to come. Just lots of really good ideas, in addition to just creatively learning how to communicate differently, using virtual systems to talk to their staff, staying more in contact, and just stepping up and really leading and just communicating better. So it's been fun to watch them use creativity and think creatively. So I want to talk about creativity today. Here's a quote for you. Every opportunity is first disguised as a problem. Every opportunity is first disguised as a problem. There's different kinds of fear, isn't there? There's the kind of fear that paralyzes people. They don't know how to act. They don't know how to react. And then there's the kind of fear that propels us into a new future. It pushes us into a creative zone. And I'm going to talk about that creative zone today. Here are two great quotes for you from two of my favorite people. Albert Einstein. Creativity is intelligence having fun. So we're going to have some fun today. Creativity is intelligence having fun. And then one of the most influential writers and speakers for my life is Maya Angelou. And she said this: you can't use up creativity. The more you use it, the more you have. So I want to be honest with you and just be open. I'm not the most creative person. It's not my normal go-to. I have to work at creativity. My normal go-to is very logical, A to B, linear. I see myself kind of as a chess player. And I want to use strategy and help myself and clients win the game. So I think more on that level. So for me, maybe like for some of you, creativity we have to work at. So I'm going to give you 4 things today that I've learned that have helped me be more creative and help some of my clients be more creative. Number 1, first you need to cultivate a creative mindset. First, you need to cultivate a creative mindset. My wife is far more creative. We were just sitting down last night and going over our planners, and I just want to show you the difference between my wife and I. This is my wife's planner. She's an artist, she's a singer, very creative, and her planner is filled with color and creativity. Let's just go to the back. She has stickies, little stickers for the different parts of her planner. Now let's take a look at my planner. And this is a planner I created for myself and I gave to a bunch of my clients. It's just really practical. I think it's sleekly designed and it's very practical, very usable. It's laid out in a very linear, organized fashion. there are no stickies. And so as we were talking about our differences, it made me realize how much I've learned from her about the creative process. Years ago, she's a painter. Years ago, I'm watching her paint, and she has all of her paint set up. She's approaching this canvas, and she's created a lot of paintings for family and friends. And I'm watching her paint, and I thought to myself, I need to create or cultivate a mindset like that. I would like to approach my craft like my wife approaches a blank canvas or a sculptor approaches a block of granite. And so I begin cultivating this creative mindset. And I begin to think about every talk that I do when I go on stage. Every talk that I do, I begin to think of it differently. I begin to think of it as craftsmanship and how to interweave story with prose, with information. And I begin to realize I don't want to inform people. I want to move people emotionally. I want to move them on their journey. So I begin to think of my talks more like craftsmanship, like an artist. Then I begin to apply that to leadership and staff meetings. And now my leadership meetings with my executive teams. I want to approach those meetings as a craftsman does. I want to help move these leaders through story and information and challenge and question and interrogatory dialogue. And I would encourage you to do the same. Change your mindset. If you're more like me, linear A to B, I want to challenge you to change your mindset and begin thinking like an artist. Begin thinking like a craftsman. How could you approach your vocation as a craftsman? As an artist approaching a blank canvas, or a sculptor approaching a stone? What would that be like if you begin thinking about your leadership, your team, your organization from the creative mindset of craftsmanship? So years ago, I began using this phrase, hone your craft and own your space. I hope you take some time to hone your craft in a creative mindset. So number one, cultivate a creative mindset. Number two is become a student. Let's talk about the way our brains develop. When we were kids, our brains they're pliable and they're plastic and they're shapeable and moldable, and everything we're learning is amazing and fun and new and fresh. And our brain is just firing on all cylinders, and we're learning all this new stuff. Well, what happens? Over time, we begin developing patterns. And those patterns, some of those are for our own good. So you don't have to use all this brain energy to learn the thing that you learned yesterday, like driving. When we first started driving, it was new and hard and challenging and complicated and difficult, and our brain was fully engaged. Now you could take a left turn while changing the radio station and eating a Big Mac, putting on your blinker, everything you have to do because it's become habitual. You don't have to learn it all new all the time. There's some good parts to that. We don't have enough brain energy to learn everything new every day. That's the good part. The bad part is this. We become so habitual that we stop learning and we rely completely on those habits. I promise you, you put the same shoe on first every single day. I promise you, you don't alternate the way that you brush and shower. Very little variation. Most of your life is habitual and it's programmed. Part of that is good. It makes our brains efficient. Part of it is bad, is that it shrinks our brain down to our habitual rut thinking. When we dedicate ourselves to being learners, we give ourselves permission to have our brain open up to new and amazing ideas. So point number two, how much time do you take in a week to learn from other people? I'll speak for myself. I try to spend a good amount of time reading books. I made a bet with my clients. If you ever find a time where I'm not currently reading a book, I'll give you $100. It's not going to happen. You're never going to find a time where I don't have a book that I'm reading. How much do you read? Podcasts. I bet I listen to 5 to 8 podcasts or videos a week. I just signed up for a year-long masterclass series where I'm learning from leaders, authors about writing, about video. Video is going to be a new part of what we offer at Leader's Edge. It's part of my creativity. Just did a masterclass series with Sarah Blakely. Sarah Blakely is the founder and inventor of Spanx. And she invented Spanx to solve a problem, how she looked in white pants. And she first began by just cutting the legs off or the toes off of her pantyhose. Now, what could I, a male, learn from a female who sells undergarments? Well, a lot. She is insightful and inspiring and creative in the way she thinks about leadership and business and marketing. I've learned a lot from Sarah Blakely. My challenge is this, is to become a student at times during your week. And I don't care how good you are at your craft. Become a student, become a learner, and allow your brain to grow and to think. I thought of this analogy. Think of all those shows where we have a treasure hunter. Maybe it's like Indiana Jones or Aladdin. Think about Aladdin. The first time he's out in the desert and he's shown this secret vault with all this treasure. Think about he's walking in, all this treasure open up. Well, that's how learners are. Every time we learn, we set some wealth aside, some treasure aside, that later we can go back and get. Every time you make yourself a learner, you're setting some wealth aside in your brain, some treasure aside, so that when you sit down to create, you have some wealth to go get. So become a learner. Become a student. Number 3, let your mind wander. Creativity requires, it involves breaking out of established thinking patterns in order to look at things in a new way. And this requires what I call thinking time. And I learned this from John Maxwell years ago. In his office, he said he has a thinking chair. It's a whole separate chair set aside for thinking. I've tried to adopt that as well, and I highly encourage all my clients to do the same. I'd encourage you to do the same. Set aside time every single week just for creativity, just for thinking. When I was a kid, my dad had passed, and it was just myself and my mom, and I had 2 younger brothers at the time from another dad, from a stepdad. So at this time, we're a mom with 3 boys. And I can remember there many times I'd say, Mom, can I go out and play? And we lived in a mobile home next to the gas station my mom owned and ran. Mom, can I go out and play? And I picture myself, the screen door slamming behind me, and I have a stick in my hand, and I get my dog Scamp, and I'm a 9-year-old boy just running out into the deserts outside of Alamogordo, New Mexico, just to play. Just a stick and my dog, and that's all I needed. And I would go and discover rocks that I thought were precious gemstones. And I can't count how many rattlesnakes and scorpions that I killed in those times where I was just wandering. It's important for us to let our 9-year-old brains just run out and play. So when I sit in my thinking chair and I sit down and just let my mind wander, that's point number 3. Create time to let your mind wander. Let your brain go out and play. Otherwise, it's trapped by the responsibilities, the pressures, the fears, and anxieties of the day. Let your mind go out to play, to wander. That's where creativity comes. It's in those times where you take the shackles off and you think about the possibilities, the endless wonder, the stories that you could create, the new ideas you could generate. That can't happen unless you free your brain up. Let your mind, let that childlike mind just run out to play every week. I encourage you to start with an hour a week. Call it thinking time. Put it in your schedule. Block it away. If you have a secretary or people that get to you, tell them, this is my D&D time. Push the button. Do not disturb. I used to have a sign on my office door. Everyone knew this is D&D time for H. This is thinking time. That thinking time has become priceless to me. So let your mind wander. Finally, let's close with this. Freedom to fail. So we have cultivate a creative mindset. Change your mindset. Think of yourself as an artist. Think of yourself as a craftsman. Become a student. Make sure you're learning from others so your brain stays pliable and flexible. It's growing. Let your mind wander. Set aside time to go back into that vault and grab some of that treasure. Let your mind wander. Freedom to fail. Now, this is important. Some of you need to hear this. I'm working with many of my clients right now high performers, amazing people, but they've locked themselves into this perfection mindset that I will only do what I know I can succeed at. Well, I can tell you from personal experience that greatly limits creativity. When we don't give ourselves permission to fail, we're also saying we don't have permission to try. If we can only do what we're good at, well, we shrink our possibilities. So, for all of you high performers, for all of you overachievers, they'll only want to do what you can be really good at. I want you to free yourself from that prison. Give yourself the freedom to fail. Give yourself permission to try new things. I think we all know Thomas Edison's story, right? How he succeeded around the 1,000th try for the incandescent light bulb. When asked about it, I didn't fail. I found 999 ways not to create a light bulb. Friends, if we're going to be creative and find new ways to lead our staff and create new sources of income coming out of this, the crisis-wise leader is willing to try new things that may not work on their first try. Be vulnerable. Be authentic. Give yourself the freedom to aim high, and sometimes you don't always hit the mark. And I want you to know that that's okay, because that's where creativity comes from. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I hope I've added value to you and sparked some creativity. Put some patterns in your life that allow your brain to grow and be flexible. Let your childlike mind wander out to play in the desert or the woods. And I hope from this you'll get some amazing ideas for your future. Some will work, some won't, but try. Thank you for your time. I am H.R. Huntsman. This is Leader's Edge. Lead well. Now go shine.